Hello, hello, hello. It is your boy Mike, and I'm here to talk about the Toronto Raptors. I was going to make a podcast, I was going to put it out on Monday, but because of the Miami Heat and Toronto Raptors game, I thought to myself, let me just wait a second. Let me just watch the game, see how the game goes, so that I know what to talk about more. Because what if they lost last night? We'd be 1-3. I wouldn't be happy. I'm pretty confident most Raptor fans would not be happy. I think most Raptor fans would be in a ditch right now crying and claiming that the Raptors aren't good enough. The 50 win prediction that many Raptor fans had wouldn't be happening right now. I never predicted 50 wins just because I think the East is really good. I think we're seeing it. Miami Heat are now 1-3. The Miami Heat, a team that I think most people felt probably was the fourth best team in the East if they were fighting with the Cavs, I guess, to be the fourth best team in the East, and they're struggling. I think they'll bounce back. I think the Miami Heat team, Heat culture, as much as we all want to hate it, the Raptors have their own culture as well. But we can see that the Heat are good. They're a good team. I think they're just probably trying to figure certain things out. The way I look at someone like Jimmy Butler when I was watching that game yesterday, I'm thinking Jimmy Butler's not trying. And that just could be me, but when I'm watching Jimmy Butler play, I've seen the way he plays in the playoffs. I see when he's playing when he's engaged. He's not engaged. He wasn't engaged last night. Still happy with the win because they beat us on Saturday, so it's good to get this bounce back win. I actually kind of like. I've seen some people talk about this whole us facing teams twice in a row. I actually prefer that. I actually like it. It may lead us to being more of a 500 team in the sense of that team may strike first and then we may beat them back. Stuff like that may happen. Hopefully, we can get some streaks going. I know our next few games are against teams like Philly, and I really want to beat Philly twice. I actually don't want Philly to win at all. I do think Philly's a really good team. I think they're probably the best team in the East. Record wise, they're the best team in the East. So I want to beat a team like that. But in this podcast, this is my Raptor Weekly podcast that I plan on doing. I hope to bring on a friend or two throughout the season to talk about the Raptors. I may do it in video form, may do it in podcast form. Sometimes it's just easier to record and upload in podcast form. It's just much better. It's much easier. I like to talk it out, talk whatever feeling I have out. It's a podcast, so it's just what you're thinking, right? I'm not gonna give you the rundown analytics. I'm not gonna break down certain things. That's not my forte. I'm just gonna talk to you like a regular fan. And I know some people in Warriors Nation they don't like that. They don't like Raptor fans talking or any fan really talking. They want people with credentials. Sorry, I don't got credentials. I don't got credentials just yet, but I do like talking raps. I think I know a little bit about basketball. I know a little about the X's and O's of this 5-on-5 court. I think I know a little bit. So I like talking about it. I like seeing what I see for my eye test. And in my eye test, his Raptor team defensively is good. I'm actually very impressed with the defensive side of things for the Raptors. And I think most of you guys should be as well. Um, the Heat game, of course, is going to be the score is going to be the score. 98-90. That makes sense. Nothing, nothing made us ever think that that was going to be different. If you ever look at the history of these two teams, you would never think to yourself that the score would be any different. But if I look at the other games, and if I look at the other games throughout the NBA, there's like high score games. Like, Portland just beat Denver by like 25. You know, Chicago was down 20 and then up 20. You see a lot of things like that where with Toronto, they've won a game by three. They just won their game by eight. They only lost by four and then lost by three. So it's gonna be close games all around. Clearly, it's gonna be close games all around for the Toronto Raptors. I think we're all happy to see that because that means there's always a fighting chance. They're never out of it. That means sometimes it's gonna break their way. Sometimes it won't break their way. Like we saw against Brooklyn, especially against Brooklyn. They didn't break their way with Brooklyn. They fought back and forth. I would say the one thing with the Brooklyn game is there wasn't a lot of help elsewhere. There was a lot of Pascal and Fred. Which leads me to the first thing I actually want to talk about. Now that the Raptors are 2-2, what have we seen for we can say basically the first few games, the first kind of week of the Raptors? What we've seen is a good defensive team, offensively not that bad. of course, they go through their lulls where they're not scoring anything. They're not scoring nothing. It's and my biggest way to fix that, I see a lot of lineups where or I would say, you know, Pascal's with Gary. I wouldn't put Pascal with Gary. I think the two people you got to separate. Like I said in my last podcast, is you got to separate Fred and Pascal. Of course, you stagger their minutes. You just don't want to put them always together. Of course, at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game, they should definitely be together. Their two-man game has improved so much. It's at the level where it was like Kyle and DeMar, even Kawhi and Kyle level. It's really good. So you want to keep that together. And saying that, you want to also, separate. I would like to separate the Fred and Pascal minutes. I think Fred and Gary should be together because I think Gary can get you those buckets. Gary can get you when you're having a lull. To me, that's where you put Gary and tell Gary to almost isolate, or you try to give Gary an open shot. And I know they're trying to put him in the corner a lot more. Give him in the corner. Let him shoot a lot more from the corner. Even OG, let these 38 to 40% shooters do all that. That's what I'm expecting from them. That's what I would like to see from them. Ultimately speaking. So that's something that I think would help with the lulls if we had a Pascal. And you put Pascal with, I think get a Pascal with maybe a Malachi Flynn. I think, we may want to see a little bit more Malachi Flynn minutes. Put him with a Precious, put him with a Chris, put him with guys who can crash the board, run with them. Even a Scotty Barnes, of course, can crash the boards, run with him. That's where we can help the lulls. Sometimes with the lulls happen when Fred is on, I see. And I think when Fred is on, he may be a little bit dribble happy. And we don't want to see him be too dribble happy. But him and Gary can, and an OG can provide some spacing, some 3-point shooting that can help out those lulls that we see sometimes. Now, the fact that we're 2-2 is great. I think, I don't know what else people expected. I said it's going to be a tough season. I predicted a 48 wins. I think they will be on the bad teams. I think some of the good teams, their first 10 games it's not easy, After they face Philly, they still got to face Atlanta. Then San Antonio should be an easy game. Then Dallas is a tough team. Chicago is pretty good. And then they kind of relax. They have the Houston, Oklahoma, Indiana. And then they have the team they can never beat in Detroit. That's the next 15 games. But we get that when we get there. But those next few games, especially the next three, Philly, Atlanta, those are tough games. But I just think they just had a really tough stretch just now. So I think the schedule gods weren't that easiest on them. But being 2-2 right now is pretty good. I think Raptor fans should be happy about that. Now the two people that I think have played well, and one of them I'm talking about more, which is Pascal. I'm gonna I don't know, I may go on another spiel about Pascal because I keep seeing tweets about him. I keep seeing people talk about Pascal. And all I can say to myself is honestly, just the way people spoke about Pascal back in the day. I love seeing what I'm seeing for Pascal. I'm happy that Pascal is proving some of the naysayers wrong. He may not be top 5. He may not be a top 5 player in the NBA. But right now he's playing like a top 15 player. And, he's outplaying guys that people put above him. And I just think we should start talking about Pascal a little bit better. He needs... I'm going to talk about his splits more. I'm going to talk about Pascal soon. But the other person that I think, besides Pascal, has been good, Fred has been the second best player for the Raptors. Fred VanVleet has, honestly, I think I didn't expect Fred to be the second best. I expected Fred to be the second best player, so to speak. But I really, points-wise, expected Scotty to step up, OG to step up, Gary to have more points. I thought Fred's points would actually drop down, and if you think about it, for the first 4 games, it did drop down. He's only scoring 16 points a game. Last year, he was doing 20. So, he's not scoring just as much. He's assisting just as much as he was last year, which I do like seeing. I think him and Pascal should be our lead assist men, with Scotty being right there with them. So, I think Fred is facilitating a lot more. He's getting the guys going. And I just think overall, Fred has been really good. I think Fred has played like the all-star he was playing last year, just with different numbers. That's my thought process. So I'm thinking right now, if the Raptors somehow, can get two All Stars. Right now, it's the second one is Fred. I think Fred deserves it just as much as anybody. And I would love to see a two-time All Star in Fred VanVleet. I would have never thought it would have been Fred. To be honest, I thought probably the way the East was looking, I'm thinking, okay, it's just gonna be Pascal probably. But Fred has played just as well. So I think we need to start talking about that in a different light. His leadership on the court, his ability to get the guys going, his ability to when there is a lull, he does. Like I say, I think sometimes, especially during that Miami Heat game, I feel like he was kind of forcing it a little bit. But sometimes I think he's forcing it because he's not seeing it in OG right now. He's not seeing it in Gary, and maybe Pascal needs a little bit of a breather. So Fred's taking it on himself. But the one thing I'm seeing a lot of that I'm liking is trust is so big in a team, and I think this team, and I always talk about organization. Every team needs organization. I don't care what team they are, you need organization. They know the ball is going to go to Pascal's hands. Last year, when it was like, dying seconds of the first quarter, second quarter, whatever, it may go to anyone's hands. But now they're consistently giving it to Pascal. They're like, yeah, Pascal, take us home. In the fourth quarter, Pascal, here's the ball. Do your thing. Two-man game with him and Fred. Because every time Pascal has the ball, even if it's not Pascal's assist, it's Pascal passing it to someone else. Even the last game beforehand, it was Pascal passing it to Fred, who then passed it to Gary for that corner three. This past game, how much times did Pascal get see Gary for that three-point shot? It's Pascal's ability as being the best player on the team, getting double teamed, because people know that if he has you on the island and he's driving on you, he's above 50%. He's getting a basket, or he's getting fouled because he's going to the free throw line way more than he did in years past. So it's crazy to see that, when you look at Fred and Pascal's games, they're actually helping him. I think Fred and Pascal have made Gary's job a lot easier. Gary's averaging 18 points a game. A lot of it's based off the fact that Fred and Pascal are seeing that he's open, because he is open. Out of all the guys that have been open the most, it's Gary's been open. You see a lot of Gary's shots. The one that he just hit, last night against Miami, he was a little bit more contested. But in the beginning, he was, he had a little clear room to get that basket off, right? And that's all because of Fred and Pascal. I just can see that, their dynamic as a duo has improved so much, and one of the reasons why they're 2-2, quite frankly, could have been 3-1 if they beat Brooklyn. That Brooklyn game was the one that was, to me, the most gettable. That Miami game, that was a back-to-back. I never thought that was going to be gettable. I never thought it was gettable. Sometimes there's just games that you're scheduled losses, they say. It was a scheduled loss. That game was a scheduled loss to happen. So I think we all should have expected that. It was kind of, quite frankly, easy to predict that was going to happen. But yeah, I think all in all, it's seen. I don't know. I think Fred has been really good this year. I think he's been really good. Fred has been the most consistent guy besides Pascal on the team. I think Fred has, I keep saying the leadership skill, because I think being a leader is so good. And going back to what I was saying about organization, the team knows that Pascal's our guy. Scotty's supposed to be that second guy, and I think he will. I think Scotty's now hurt, so I think it's going to change a little bit. But Fred knows that he has to become more, he has to shoot more, right? Now in shooting more, he has to get the ball, and it leaves people like Gary and OG more open. Now, one thing that we should talk about is the minutes. We all know that Nick Nurse wanted to limit the minutes. Well, right now, Fred, Gary, and Pascal are all at 38 minutes. I think he doesn't want any of them to be at 38 minutes, but they've had to. They've had offensive lulls. When those three guys have been your best offensive players, you do need them. And it's not it's a necessity, actually. Especially Pascal. I feel like some games I'm like, oh my gosh, Pascal needs to be on the court 44 minutes. There's just no offense on this team. That's why, not only would I personally, I'm not no coach, but I wouldn't put Gary and Pascal together a lot. I would separate them, because I think those two are your best one-on-one creators. And Gary's not a great creator. Let's just say Gary's not the best creator on the team, but he can get a shot going better than most. I think he can get his shot. He can create a shot better than an OG. Scotty's getting up there. Um, and Fred is there as well. But I think if you have Fred and Gary, it's better. Pascal can create. Pascal can get guys going. Uh, Pascal's the best player on the team, so he's gonna make everyone else better around him just by him being on the court. So I just think you kind of that's what you just kind of have to do. That's why someone like, of course, Pascal's not this person, but LeBron is really good with the bench units because LeBron is LeBron. AD has to be with Russell Westbrook because they'll play better together because LeBron can make everyone better. And I think Pascal's elevation as in his game is the fact that he's getting everyone else so much better, and it's great to see. But yeah, but the minutes, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with the minutes. I do think we can talk about the minutes and talk about the bench at the same time. When we're talking about the minutes, I think it's because the bench isn't that great yet. We just got Chris Boucher back. He was unfortunately in some foul trouble. But even so, being in foul trouble, the man still scored 10 points in 12 minutes. That is greatly missed. That is greatly missed. You missed that. And I think Precious had said that when he has Chris, it helps him. And when it helps Precious, it's going to help Chris. And then I think having those two men, like having the backup bigs be both like 6'10", Precious can handle the ball pretty well for his size. I think very well for his size, in all honesty. Now having both of those guys, having the ability of Chris is a really good 3-point shooter. We believe he can hit that, 37%, 35 to 37%. We believe Chris can do that if he can hit 40%. Or something we've seen him do in the Tampa year. Last year wasn't so great, but we want to see him do that again. And then when you have someone like an Otto Porter who we haven't seen yet, when he comes, it's going to be better because he's a 40% 3-point shooter. So the bench is going to get better. So I can see once he's back on, that everything will be better for the minutes wise, right? And with minutes, what needs to happen, even though, this person is a starter, this person will help with a Pascal's minutes, with a Fred's minutes. And that's OG Anunoby. OG's struggles have been quite evident. Him only averaging 12 points a game is not great. And I'm saying offensively. Defensively, OG's been really good. And that's why you have to watch the game. Like, sometimes things happen. And I know everyone wants OG to become this, 20-point scorer. It may not happen. I've always said that may not be him. I think that's okay. I think it's okay if OG's averaging 15 points a game and becoming that defensive player that we all think he can be. It's okay. I think if your top scorers are Pascal, Gary, Fred, and Scotty, that's fine. And OG's that, defensive guy who's going to hit corner threes. It's okay. I think, once again, roles are needed. In every NBA team, roles are needed. OG's probably a better 3-point shooter. Percentage-wise, he's not better. He is better than Pascal. So who would you rather in the corner? You rather, even though Pascal was the best corner 3-point shooter on the team, but you still rather OG, OG's a really good 3-point shooter. OG has hit clutch shots. OG's guarding the best player on the other team. He guarded Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's just really good at what he does, honestly, really is. So he's really efficient sometimes, and last game he just was really efficient. But OG has struggled, and OG's struggle does hurt the bench. So I think if we had a better OG, then we would have the ability to sit down a Pascal more, a Fred more. And it's offensively, like I said. Offensively, OG does need to improve. I do think so. 11 points a game is not good. We need OG to give us 15. That's what I think. He should give us 15. That's I look at this Raptor team, I see where everyone should go. Like, Pascal may not average 26 points a game. I hope so. I actually do hope so, because I think when you average more points, people then tend to stare at you more. So I would like to see Pascal do that more. Now also with the bench, we're not seeing guys like Thad didn't play last night. I saw a lot on Twitter, people wanted Thad to play. I know Kim Birch got some minutes yesterday. I thought Kim Birch was fine yesterday. The weird thing with this team, it's not deep. this team is not deep. Like ultimately deep in the sense of like a bunch of guys can get back buckets. I should say that there's not a lot of guys who can get buckets on the team, but there's a lot of guys you want to see play, and that's the thing with the bench. There's a lot of guys you want to see play. Malachi has played the past couple games. He's actually played very well. He has the mask on, but he's actually played pretty well to me. Donald Banton has not played well. He's another guy who I think has been struggling. And I think it could be the pace of the game because he's all about going downhill. And the thing is, he probably won the camp battle for the backup PG in training camp. He was actually really good. So, but I still want to see more Delano Banton. I think 4 games is not a sample size. Let's go the first 20 games of the season, and let's go to that's like the first quarter of the season. Let's really decide, who we want to see more, who we not. Thad Young, I said it when I made my Raptors prediction. We were never gonna see a lot of Thad Young this year. We were just never gonna. He's not here to play minutes a lot. He's probably here for those it's funny. I think he's here for more of those crucial games where you need more veteran help on the court, when you need more smart decision making. That's where you put that. When he's against Philly, he probably will play. I'm surprised he didn't play against Miami, but against the Miamis, against the Milwaukees, when they have guys like Giannis and Embiid, and I think that's where you'll see that a lot. But that is, to me, is ultimately here to help the young guys. He's here to be that veteran leadership. I love having that. I think I think every team needs a that. Andre Iguodala doesn't play minutes, but he's there. Dallas Haslam doesn't play minutes at all, but he's there, right? I think, every team needs that. Why can't that not be that? That's how I see it. So I like the fact that is not getting a crazy amount of minutes. I think what he should be doing is becoming that veteran leadership where he's a vet. He's that extra leader that's on the bench. He's helping the guys. He's that extra voice for the coaching staff. I like that. I think I appreciate things when I see stuff like that. So I'm all about Thad being that type of person. I just seen on Twitter that they assigned Justin Champagny. I want to see someone like him play a little bit more. Wancho, he played the first game, wasn't that great, so I don't see him. I never saw him really playing a lot of minutes. I think so. He wants to give guys a shot. But with Chris Boucher back, this team is now at their, let's say, 7 deep. Now they're 7 deep, right? And then with Christian Coloco, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. He just started last game, and there's a lot of signs. Like, you can see the signs. You can see the growth, a potential growth in Coloco. You can see what he can become. Like, I think he can become, like, a nice rim runner in the near future. I think he could potentially have a nice jump shot if he, perfects it. I know some people saw a Serge Ibaka, but I see Serge Ibaka in Precious. I see a better ball handling version of Serge Ibaka and Precious, but I can probably see more traditional version of Serge Ibaka and Christian Coloco. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he's gonna still get more minutes. I don't know what's happening there. Kem Birch, same thing. Malachi, I think we all want to see Malachi play more. So we may see that more. We may see more Malachi. So the thing is, the bench within itself hasn't stood out, but with bringing Chris Boucher, with Otto coming back soon, with Kem Birch, Thad Young, I still think this team is good. With Delano and Flynn, the bench can still help you out a lot. Now it's about building the bench's chemistry, which takes some time. It's not an overnight thing. The bench needs to build chemistry. Clearly, Precious and Chris Boucher have chemistry. Makes you think all those times you want to, start Precious and bench Gary. Makes you realize that maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to start Precious because him and Chris literally come on. I'm not even talking about the fact that Precious had 22 rebounds, 18 defensive rebounds last game. Wow. I think overall this team, rebounding wise, they're not the top rebounding team in the league, but I just feel like they're better. It's funny, defensive rebounds are better. Offensive rebounds, they're not as great as they were last year, but still pretty good. Still pretty good for this squad. I want to give me a minute to just briefly say Gary Trent is needed. Gary Trent's needed. I just talked about the fact that right now he's our second leading scorer. He may be our second leading scorer throughout the whole season. I said it in my, what I'm expecting from everyone, I said it for Gary Trent. I'm expecting him to be the guy that in the fourth quarter, when we give him the ball, he's knocking it down. I feel that in the fourth quarter, it's Pascal and Gary Trent. Those are two guys I trust the most. Of course, Fred as well, but Fred is two-man game with Pascal. Fred, when it's the fourth quarter, like 5 minutes ago, I never think Fred is going to miss a three-point shot. Ever since the finals, I never think. When he misses it, I'm shocked. Fred can go 0 of 4, and I'll be like, you know what? Give it to Fred again for that three-point shot. I'm okay with it. So Fred, Gary, I can see it. That's why Pascal, this team is like made for Pascal now. Honestly, now that I can sit back thinking about it, this team is made for a player like Pascal. Pascal doesn't care to score 25 points a game. He does it because the team needs it. He doesn't care to have it. But when he has guys like, Gary, Fred, and OG in the corner, you can give it to them. When you have someone like Scotty, who's one of their better downhill threats as well, it makes the game easier. It makes the game much easier to have. So I believe, this is like Pascal's like almost dream scenario. And Gary's a part of that scenario. And Gary's needed. I know a lot of people think that Gary needs to be, he's probably one of the most dispensable guys to be traded. But I'll be honest, if you trade Gary Trent, what are you getting him for? Unless you're getting someone who can score the basket like Gary, you have no one on the squad like Gary. No one on the squad like Gary. When you traded Norman Powell, you traded him for Gary. So you traded a guy who scored 18 points for another guy who scored 18 points. But if you lose Gary Trent, what are you getting? You need to get someone who can score 18 points a game. Right? So you have to be getting something to lose Gary. And I don't think Gary should be lost. I actually think Gary's so needed on the squad. Now, if I'm in saying all that, as much as I think Gary's needed, I think that in order for the Raptors to get over a hump, that actual hump, you would have to improve in that position. I know we talk a lot about the center position, and I understand that we need to potentially improve in that position, but if you had a better version of Gary, and I'm talking like the better version of Gary's are the DeMar DeRozans, the Bradley Beals, the Devin Bookers, the Donovan Mitchells. If you had that, then I think this team is like, whew, unless Pascal's literally taking a top 5 leap, like this team and Gary's like, yeah. But I think Gary's still needed. I thought Gary was needed in the playoffs. I think Gary will be needed in this coming playoffs. I think so a guy like Gary, his ability to get a bucket is going to be needed because at the end of the day, Fred is still only. I just looked at the ESPN has Fred listed as a shooting guard. That's weird. He's clearly the point guard. But yeah, someone like Fred, he's still smaller, right? He's still 6 foot. So you kind of need that extra length, and I believe that Gary has it. So I said I was gonna go a minute, but I went a little longer, like normal. But yeah, Fred is good. Lasting notes, Precious was a little bit inconsistent, but I think having Boucher is gonna help him out. Like I said, big game last game, pretty good. Banton, OG struggles. Yeah, I spoke about that. Last but not least, my last I don't know why I keep calling podcast. My last podcast, I spoke about 50 minutes. I had a bunch of topics to talk about. Today, not so much. I'm just happy this team is 2-2. I'm just happy basketball's back. In all honesty, I'm happy with what I'm seeing. I'm happy with, with this Raptors team just overall. Now, in saying that, I want to talk about him now. I hope I don't go too long talking about this man, but I can talk about him for a little bit. And the reason why I'm so high on him is because, when he was having his bad season, I would be in groups and I would talk about this guy. And people were calling this guy dirt. Talking about his spin move. Oh my goodness. Okay. Like, okay. Oh, it's easy to defend the spin move. Did he do it a lot at one point? Yeah. I think what hurt him was the Tampa season. He had a lot of missed game winners, and people started to rail on him for having those missed game winners. It happens, If there's anyone I want scoring, I still want him scoring. If anyone I want to have the ball in the fourth quarter, because I just believe in what they're gonna do with it, it's Pascal. Pascal's numbers now. It's only 4 games in. I think a lot of people's numbers are inflated right now. because it's the first 4 games, normally gets back to order. But Pascal's 26, 10, and 7 with like borderline 2 steals, but 1.5 steals. We'll say we'll give him that. You know, he does have a high turnover rate, and he's fouling at a higher rate that I would like. Uh, I think his assist to turnover ratio is a little higher than we want it, but it is what it is. He's still a big. He's still working on his ball handling, but to 26, 10, and 7. If we put a stat line like that, you're thinking it's a guy like Luka, Jokic. The assist that would be a little bit higher for Embiid, but very similar. This is MVP Harden. This is MVP Westbrook. This is Steph. This is Kevin Durant. This is LeBron James. It's 4 games into the season. It's 4 games. It's way too early. Right now, everyone's crowning Jason Tatum as the MVP. I don't blame it. If I had to name an MVP, it would be Jason Tatum. That's why he got the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. He deserved it. But right there is Pascal right now, and in the Eastern Conference. The second best player in the East Conference right now has been Pascal Siakam. Yeah, I see what James Harden is doing. I see it. Embiid ain't doing shit. Embiid's not doing nothing. Giannis is Giannis. We don't ever forget Giannis. Jason Tatum's doing his thing. But Pascal has been great. Last game, he was like 7 of 20, 7-22, I believe. Did not have a great game. He missing a lot of shots in the beginning. But Miami's defense is good. Miami will do that to anybody. Okay? They were guarding him up. They were guarding him good. They played tough. But Pascal played great defensively. When it was crunch time, he hit the big baskets. He passed it at a timely manner. He did everything great. So we can talk about the spin move. We can talk about, we can throw dirt on his name, throw dirt on his game. But quite frankly, we've seen an improvement in Pascal. First 4 games, it's not going to be every day. We understand that. But if he wants to be top 5, he has to be consistent. There's 82 games. Let's say he plays all 82, let's say. He probably won't. But let's say he plays all 82. He would have to be like that. Like the way he's playing right now. For at least 65 to 70 games. He would have to be this. I'm going to give him 24 points. I know he has 26. 24. Let's go 9 rebounds. Let's go 5 assists. 24, 9, and 5. Right? Because some games, the man clearly has to be 30 points sometimes. But he can do it because, honestly, like, what to me is the most impressive about Pascal this year is the fact that, and it goes to the first game, he saw Evan Mobley, who everyone's calling this guy generational defensive talent. And he had Karis LeVert. And he switched onto Mobley. He said, I want Mobley. I want Mobley to guard me. That's crazy. And then in saying that, even in last game, he was attacking whoever was on him. He was attacking. Yes, he would get the switch for the mismatch because who doesn't do that? But he was attacking everyone. I think what is making Pascal's game even better this year is that he's attacking. Like, he's not always settling for the jumper. And when he's hitting the jumper, it's been consistent. Pascal's been really good this year. Defensively, offensively, as a playmaker, he's just been good. The man's pretty much averaging 7 assists a game. 7 assists a game. I didn't know that, like, I believe Pascal was going to be good. I honestly did. I normally try to put down the stats I think they'll have, but damn. Like, his game is completing itself. It's literally becoming complete. No, I'm right now, I just pulled up Jason Tatum's numbers. 32, 8, and I'll give him 4. 32, 8, and 4. He's scoring the basket efficiently, so he's doing his thing. Jaylen Brown, who a lot of people are saying, and I thought he's been having a really good year. He's at 24, 5, and 3. 24, 5, and 3 is pretty good. People are already saying Jaylen Brown should be an All NBA player. People already think Jaylen Brown should be an All NBA player. This so far, and I need to probably take a step back and see it. How is Pascal not playing first team All NBA right now? It's 4 games into the season. I'm snapping. I get that. I'm going crazy right now. First team All NBA? Come on, man. It's only 4 games into the season. Relax. But I see people already talking about MVP. So if you can talk about MVP with the first 4 games of the NBA season, guess what I'm going to talk about? All NBA. They both sound dumb to talk about right now. It's way too early. It's 4 games. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I just wanted to say Pascal's playing amazing. We're seeing it from the defensive side. We're seeing it from the offensive side. He's handling the ball better. He's just finding his teammates better. I think Gary Trent and Pascal clearly have a great chemistry. If you guys are not seeing it, because Gary Trent is his points are coming off the fact that, Pascal is finding him, and he's open. And not just Pascal, Fred VanVleet as well. Those 2 guys have really helped this team go. We do need OG to improve. I think we'll see that. I think that's fine. I think we're just gonna see improvement all around. I think the bench will get better. I truly believe the bench will get better. I'm very encouraged. Seeing Chris Boucher play the way he played, that energy he played with, seeing Precious have that same energy, you can tell that they have the chemistry. Once we can get Otto there, and then we can have a lineup of like a Scotty, Pascal, Otto, Precious, and Boucher. Like that's a pretty good lineup. Pretty very very good lineup. Ability to get rebounds defensively, it can be really good. And when Pascal can be with a bunch of shooters around him, let's say if he has Otto, Gary, Fred, OG, because that lineup, I can see that lineup closing some games, And then we have Scotty back when he's healthy. Things. This 2-2 start, I'm very encouraged. They may go 3-3 after facing Philly, which it is what it is. I do want to beat Atlanta because I just not a big fan of Atlanta. So if we can just crush Atlanta, that'd be great. If we can beat Philly, that'd be good too. I feel like Philly probably has a back-to-back. Who knows? But I'm not. I don't know. But I plan to make more, content this week. Probably do another podcast about the Raptors because why not? I love them. I was gonna make a video about the Lakers. I will. I don't know. The one thing I'll just say, like, you gotta just stop blaming Russ. I think it's kind of tiring. You gotta stop blaming Russ. It's not. How could it always be his fault? That doesn't make no sense. But make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment below. Tell me what you guys think about the 2-2 start. I'm encouraged. I hope you guys are as well. If not, make sure you talk about it. Comment, subscribe. We can talk more about the Raptors. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.